we have to take our will back, which we have given to others. We give it to the media. We've given it away to fear.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted more peace and hope during this crazy time, then do we have the Messages of Hope show for you. Today I'll be talking with Suzanne Giesemann, author, medium, a former U.S. Navy commanding officer, and aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the author of an incredible journey of hope and discovery, Messages of Hope. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about our own metaphysical journeys and what we can learn about this extra challenging time. That plus we'll talk about yellow butterflies and TVs. I have my own butterflies today. Rudy the Dachshund, Liberty the Sloop, Sailing the Atlantic, Zeus and Athena, Jose Cuervo and Bluegrass Perfume, and what in the world a puppy named Nellie has to do with anything. Gotcha. So welcome to the show, Suzanne. Are you ready to shine?
Oh, Michael, all I have to do is reflect your energy and I'll be shining bright. Wow.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Forgive me for going right to the crux of the matter from question number one, and we're going to double back around. But where were you on 911?
Well, I was in the last aircraft in U.S. airspace. So many people think that the president was in the last aircraft, but his plane had already been grounded when mine, containing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and his select staff, was still in the air. I was his aide on that day, aide to the top military officer in the U.S. We got word about the attack on the World Trade Center, and the chairman told me, take us back to Washington. So I went up to the cockpit, and the pilot said, Commander, we're going to go right over Manhattan. And so those of us on the plane saw New York City with our own eyes, returned to our office building, the Pentagon, as it was still burning, saw that with our own eyes that day. And it was certainly burned into my memory, as it was for everybody that day, but witnessed it all.
You've advised the president from the White House. You flew almost over the Twin Towers, I'm guessing very close to the Twin Towers. What did that burn into your psyche?
Well, at the time, I didn't have any awareness of the afterlife. I didn't know anything that I know now. And so at that time, I was just feeling a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty. So I fell back on my Navy training. And we used to say, suck it up, as we went walking into the center of the Pentagon a few hours later, back on the ground. I didn't want to go in there. I didn't want to be seeing bodies and devastation, but you just get a grip. And I've happily learned a lot of tools since that time. But I look back on that, and the difference between my life then and now is just astounding.
Thank you so much for sharing. My guess is that it was actually a crowbar. You had to be pried out several layers at least, but that was the first step, I'll put that in quotes, on your journey.
Absolutely, because we ultimately came to our senses and walked around the outside of the Pentagon instead of going in from the center. And standing there gaping at that gaping hole, I couldn't help but ask the question, look, there were people sitting there at 9 o'clock this morning. How come they were in that place and some people were saved? You start asking those big questions, but I didn't get any real satisfying answers at the time.
Were you at that time? So I'm wondering how much of a dual life you were leading, because on the one hand, you are suck it up. And you did, I had to be, to get to that level, an incredible job, both at what you did and at controlling, if not suppressing, everything on the inside. On the other hand, I'm guessing that on occasion you had this urge to troll an interesting bookstore or two.
Oh, yeah. I was totally fascinated at the thought of an afterlife. I'd heard about people called mediums who could allegedly talk to those who had died if they still survived death. So this fascination was there. And I would go into New Age bookstores, sometimes in uniform, and feel like I was doing something wrong, although there was never any rule against exploring spiritual things and metaphysical things in the military, but it was certainly not a topic that any of us ever talked about openly.
Wow. So if we fast forward, it sounds like you put in your resignation. It may have taken a few years for it to go through. And then you find yourself on a 46-foot sloop heading across the Atlantic. How are you feeling, and what were you reading?
Oh, well, I was feeling like this is a major milestone. I'm actually sailing across the Atlantic Ocean on my sailboat. It was like, get this check in the box. This is very cool to do this. Not too many people get that chance. I was feeling a little seasick every once in a while. I was feeling a little restless, but I was happy to be doing it. I was reading not a whole lot at the time because crossing the Atlantic, it was just the motion was difficult. But once we got to the Mediterranean, I remember stopping at a U.S. military base in Italy, and they had books for sale in English. So I found one by James Van Praagh on mediumship, and I thought, oh, there's a topic that interests me. And I started reading it, but I thought, wow, some of the things he says sound a little crazy. He's talking about people across the veil who are working and doing things like we do here. And, I have apologized to James Van Praagh in person since then, but I threw his book out because I thought if my husband sees I'm reading this kind of stuff, he's gonna think I went over the edge.
Do you remember, because when I work with somebody and I'm coaching or work with myself, let's put the mirror on myself. If I find the ire coming up inside of myself, I actually need to dive in deeper because that actually is a button which was meant to be pushed. Do you know what was the button was that got you throwing it in the trash?
Yeah, absolutely. At the time, I didn't know about looking for those buttons, but it was my fear that if my husband saw that, he'd think I was crazy and then he wouldn't love me.
Wow.
That was the button. Yeah.
Your husband was a former naval destroyer commander.
Destroyer captain. Yeah. He outranked me. He was the captain. And so metaphysical things, I mean, he's open to reason, but at the time I didn't have any validation, only what was in books.
So you started reading James Van Praagh's book, and I believe you're off the coast of Croatia, and you have a very profound, disturbing dream.
I did. It was just that my stepdaughter, Susan, my husband Tues' daughter, came up to me in a party, and I never dreamed about Susan, ever. I'd known her for years now, but she walked up to me, and she was pregnant in real life at the time, but in the dream, she had the baby, and she looked at me with this reassuring look and said, "The baby and I are fine." But that dream was so real that I told Ty about it when I woke up, and I said, we need to reach out to her. We need to make contact with her. There was just something that said, let's connect. This was 2006. So this was before people were texting. We were now, as you said, in Croatia, and we didn't even have email on board. We had to use a special single sideband radio. So it wasn't like we could just instantly text her and say, "You doing okay?" So we sent her an email through the radio.
And what was the response?
Well, there was no response. That was not unusual because we didn't always hear from her because we weren't in this texting day. But the next day, it could have been 2 days later, we got an email from Ty's other daughter saying, "You need to phone home. It's important." And we thought she just wanted to talk about finances. But it took us a day to find a phone, believe it or not. We had to go ashore and find an island with a phone on it. And that dream turned out to be very prophetic because it turns out that Susan had been struck and killed by lightning the day or two after that dream. And she and the baby have been killed. So I know now from what I've learned that she somehow knew that I would sense her. Her soul knew she needed to get a message through to all of us, and I would be the one that would sense her in that dream. So in retrospect, very comforting.
What was the experience, and how did each one of these things was shifting you profoundly?
Absolutely. That was utter devastation for our family. After 9/11, Michael, I saw the families at the memorial services and how they were suffering. I could barely bear their pain, even though I was an escort officer at one of the services. And for me, sailing across the ocean was kind of like running away, escaping from all the pain that everybody in the country had been through. But suddenly, here I am, can't run away. This is our family now. And it was, every step of the way was like a a physical blow to the body, seeing the obituary. How can that be our daughter? And going to the funeral home, every step of the way, it was, how much can a person handle? How can this be happening? Wake me up from this dream. And it was very, very hard. But it's those dark nights of the soul that lead to our greatest transformation. So I can talk about it now and not cry. I see the bigger picture. I see the silver lining. So it's all okay.
Thank you. And that's what we need to hear right now. And when you saw your stepdaughter, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
and when you saw your stepdaughter there in the casket, it wasn't her.
That was the biggest turning point in my life, because I just looked at that body, and I don't even say Susan's body. It was a body. It was so clear to me that was just a vessel. It was so foreign from who I knew as Susan. In that moment, something in me awoke and said, there is something that enlivens the body, and it's a spirit. It's the spirit. It's spirit itself. And I knew I had to find that. I knew I had to experience that. At that time, I had to find Susan, but I found so much more. I found that Susan and you and I and all of us are that spirit. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Woo!
The next question, I had no idea when I put on this shirt. I just said, you have to wear your yellow shirt, or that's what I heard. I had a beautiful purple shirt on. I said, purple, nice, spiritual, mediumship. And I said, I have to wear my yellow shirt. And my green screen doesn't actually like my yellow shirt. It's very hard to get the two to cooperate with each other. But now I'm coming to the next question, a coincidence about yellow butterflies and TVs. And I'm going, oh.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about yellow butterflies and TVs?
Well, we had to go back to the boat in Croatia. So I said, I'm going to learn all I can about the afterlife. And I went to a Books A Million store and was actually guided to grab 3 certain books about the mediumship and the afterlife, because I knew I wasn't going to find anything like that in Croatia. And I started reading them in a hotel in Venice, halfway back to Croatia. We had a layover. And as I was reading one of those books, I heard voices, and it turns out the TV in the hotel room had gone on by itself. At the exact moment I was reading in that book how those in the spirit world often mess with electrical appliances like televisions to let us know they're around. And then the next one with the yellow butterflies was when my husband pointed out to me that this yellow butterfly had been following our boat after we got back underway for 2 days at sea. And that just doesn't happen, Michael. Just at that moment when the butterfly flew between us, the next paragraph in the next book I was reading that I had been led to said, and those in the spirit world often send you signs like a yellow butterfly in December or on the Adriatic Sea. I mean, the butterfly synchronicities and signs happened more than that in stunning ways. But this started me, my left brain military side, turning more to the right, saying, you mean there really is a spirit world? But my soul already knew that. This is all part of the path, right?
So how did you start from there? How did you start to embark? First, you were concerned you had to, I guess, get a seal of approval or a sign of approval from Ty, your husband. And then you started off to the races. How did this take place?
Well, at that point, I'm sorry, Ty, but I didn't really care what he thought. Forget having thrown out Van Prague's book. Once Susan died, that was it. I didn't care what he thought. I was going to find Susan, her spirit. So that very week, I started meditating. So even saying to my captain husband, I'll see you, I'm going into the aft cabin, I'm going to meditate because I want to connect with Susan. He never stopped me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what transformed my life, was this daily practice of sitting quietly in search of Susan. And I found so much more. I found her. It took a while, but I found her, and my intuition came back online. I started knowing things. I started knowing things about other people. I started meeting my guides. It just unfolded in ways I never could have imagined.
Do you feel we all have the ability to tap in on the inside?
I know we do, because we are all connected to each other, to all that is at all times. All we have to do is clear away the barriers. And that starts with this physical body and the BS that we've bought into throughout our whole lives. That stands for belief system, by the way.
Well, it's fascinating that you say BS, and we're going to get there, and hopefully we can get some sort of guidance from the other side during this time, because this is early on, and this will air early on for the first time in what I'm calling, I don't actually know what to call it. I see so much that I see a pre-CV world and a post-CV world. That's what I'm calling it, coronavirus CV. And we're at the early stages in the US of what's going to take place. But when we're bombarded with so much news, which I call negative, worthless stimulation, it is very hard for us to go to that centered place and remember who we are. We are completely, in a sense, spun. How do we start to de-spin?
You de-spin, first of all, by using your free will to turn off the news. And then you turn off all outer stimulation by closing your eyes, getting quiet, and asking, is there more? Show me, but more at a different level. Who am I really beyond these stories? That's what you do. And you make it a regular practice. You make a commitment to that. I mean, I have my military discipline, but it's commitment. And we all can find that inside.
So it sounds like, if we were to peel one more layer, it starts with choice. If we don't make the choice that I want this, you wanted to find Susan more than you wanted oxygen, and you found her. Yeah. That's what we have to do.
Yes.
What did the guides tell you?
What they're saying is this is the perfect scenario for all of us to come together, because this challenge knows no borders, knows no boundaries, knows no politics. It's something that we all can face together and can bring us together. But again, it's going to take a matter of truly facing our own demons. And that's strictly the fear. Casting out the fear.
Thank you. And I want to go back to your guides in a little bit here. Before I do that, everybody's wondering, I'm sure, how did you reach Susan? What did you hear?
Oh, well, it was every day saying, Susan, are you around? And then I finally, as I started to hear from my guides, I realized all is well. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. And one day, all of a sudden, here she is in my awareness, in her voice, not just my thoughts. I got goosebumps, saying, hey, Suzanne. I was like, Susan. And I start to cry because I could feel her. But what's funny, Michael, is with my background, I have learned to ask for evidence, because there was no doubt in my mind it was her. But I knew I would come out of that experience and say to Ty, Susan visited me. And he would say, that's nice, dear. So I said, Susan, you got to tell me something that I don't know. Tell me something going on with your mom so that I can validate to everybody, this is you. And she told me 3 things: that her mother had just had some incident with a ladder, that her cat was sick, and that she had white Christmas lights strung up inside her house year round. Now, I had no contact with Susan's mother for, at least a year probably. So we called her, and she validated every one of those things. She had just brought the cat home from the vet with pills. I mean, everything was accurate. So that was just the start of knowing, our loved ones are right here. They're not dead. And this is the greatest message of all. We may die from this experience here on Earth, but we don't die. So to lose that, the ultimate fear, is such a blessing.
And it means if there is life after life, one has to assume that there's purpose and meaning behind all of it, so that we can, and what I've been sharing with people is I've been looking this as kind of a humanity 2.0. This is a rebirthing. In fact, it's a going back into the womb, because we're all being told to go home and shutter up, which is the perfect opportunity to drop in on the inside as well as connect. Let us now send out love and light to everybody, connect as a full humanity, dive in and birth anew.
Can I just suggest that instead of shuttering up, we get out in nature and sit in the yard and get some natural surroundings around us, because otherwise people are going to sit in front of their computer and soak up more of the fear and add to it. Okay, so got to be willing to shut off the electronics and go within or go outside.
We'll call that go within and go without. And I had Squiggles the deer come up on the deck right before this interview, because we are surrounded by magical nature, and we have a special relationship with the animals. And I think we can all cultivate that during this time, whether that's a squirrel in the park, whatever it is.
We had 2 deer in our side yard for the first time last night, so must be a thing, Michael.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah, they come here. They come here daily. They only started. We're outside of Aspen, Colorado, and they only started this past year of coming closer and coming closer to where they'll now come on the deck. They'll look in the window at us, and it
Nice.
is the coolest thing. And that is part of. It's funny. I'm looking on my desk and I see a card from from another guest who's been on that says, "We are all connected." And as I'm looking at that, our true authentic self was never disconnected from what you're hearing. And as we plug back in within, as we plug back in without, we remember who we truly are.
It's right here, right now. I have one of my dear friends who passed to the other side, named Brenda, came through with this amazing message that there is only here, that we don't go somewhere when we die. There is only consciousness. So everything is right here in awareness, but our focus is drawn to this objective, what appears to be objective world around us. But all it takes is a shift in focus, a shift in attention with intention, and worlds open up. So all the solutions we need to our challenges are right here, but at a different level. So change the channel.
So let's talk more about changing the channel. You said shift of attention with a change in intention. Tell me more.
Intention is like a magnet. We're all focal points in this massive matrix. That's another download I just got from my guides that's on YouTube as well. Picture each of us as this light that's shining, Michael, in this vast matrix of consciousness, the field. We are the field. And so what is it that allows us to connect to other focal points is our intention. It creates a vacuum effect, so that the information we want comes towards us, lights up circuits. It's truly phenomenal, the web that we're a part of. It really becomes apparent once you take your focus off of this very limited reality. That is a very real reality, but it's just one small aspect of who we are as aspects of consciousness.
Thank you. So for yourself, military trained, they're there at 911. How do you watch and observe what's going on with the coronavirus and then be able to quickly, maybe it is not so quickly, but change the channel back to a greater reality?
Well, it is very quickly. It's amazing how simple it is. It's because now, since 2006, every day I sit in the power, which has nothing to do with ego and the kind of power most humans look for. It's the life force that breathes all of us. You sit in that awareness and know that we are a part of that field, inseparable from it. Then you can easily drop into that awareness. So I call it rising above this reality. It's changing the channel, and the quickest way to get to that place of observing is just this simple phrase my guides gave us. You state, and you can smile as you state it, "Isn't that interesting?"
Yes.
And you've instantly gone to neutrality. And that pause, that small break, gives you the distance from the story to decide, am I going to get sucked into the story or observe it and make a higher choice when I step back into the drama?
I love that expression because I have a term called snow globing, which means to take the world, to take any situation, problem, to take your own life and put it in a snow globe and to look at it. And so I can certainly saying, isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Which means I am no longer the snow globe. I am the observer of that snow globe.
I love that. And you just showed me, and you showed everybody, that from that place, there's no judgment. So it works for little things, like you just dropped a bottle of milk on the floor and it broke. Isn't that interesting? Or you can look down at all the reactions from humanity to this coronavirus and with no judgment, just say, isn't that interesting the way people are reacting? So how can we bring love into this picture instead of adding more fear?
2 questions, 2 parts. I'm having so much fun here.
Me
So
too,
first
thank
off,
you.
the dropping of milk, is everything happening to wake us up and for a higher reason, or is it a choice? I can almost see you saying both. A choice to see that or look for that.
What if everything is simply an experience for the experience of it? And from that experience, we can learn or not learn. It happens, and it's an experience. And to source, to spirit, isn't that interesting? And so the choices that are then made at this level become more experiences. And hopefully we grow from them, because otherwise, what's the point?
Thank you. So I've been challenging everybody right now, and I'm having video after video, more videos than I've ever putting out are coming out over the next few weeks. Because if people are attracted to this, I'm calling them light workers or light warriors. And this is not a time of fighting. This is a time of blasting our light into the world. And I see it as whenever people are on their twitchiest moment, it's like being on the edge of their seat. They can go both ways, which means we're actually lighter and we can really fall into the light now. How do we begin to choose this love that you're talking about?
Make the choice, and that's the intention part. I intend to no longer be a prisoner to my fear. I intend to be that light warrior, to choose love. It's a commitment that we make. It's a decision. And you can ask for help if you're still in a place where you feel that you're doing this from a place of less than, then that's fine. But we can simply affirm, I make the choice for love, not fear.
Woohoo!
Woo!
So on that note, speaking of asking for help, I feel now might be a good time. Can we have you plug in and see what anything the guides would want to share with us now?
Okay, because I've already shared a good bit there already. So let's just see. I always get this ugly little lip twitch there and it just happened there when the guides say, go ahead and speak. So the guidance truly is that your greatest barometer of where you are in any situation is what you're feeling within. So are you feeling defensive? Are you feeling judgmental? Self-monitoring instead of monitoring others is going to be your greatest tool at this time. I'm in a kind of in-between state, Michael. I could just go into pure channeling, or I could just repeat their messages for you. But awareness is being flashed before my mind here, that we get in a position of robotically, our entertainment has caused us to just become sponges and soak up what is being presented to us. But it's time to take back our power. That's what we were talking about earlier, about exerting our will, not giving it away. And to take back our power doesn't mean now to become an aggressive warrior. It simply means to state, I am the light I seek. I don't accept other people's fear, and I'm going to come from that place. But it's going to be a place of love. And so you constantly test yourself. Am I coming from love or fear? And your body will tell you. Your thoughts will tell you. So we have to monitor ourselves first before we start judging other people and their reactions.
Thank you. In fact, what I've noticed with people, I noticed with myself, if you dive in initially to the news, that negative, worthless stimulation, it is so powerful right now that you may actually feel a dopamine rush. It's like looking at a traffic accident, but you have to peel away that biological layer of the rush and say, what am I feeling in the inside? And I'm convinced we all feel an ick. And I recommend we step away from the ick, because that is not our true essence. Change the channel.
And I love that. you're absolutely right. People become addicted to the negativity, why do people go to horror movies? Why do we go to shoot 'em up, bang 'em up movies? It gives us that rush. But you know what immediately takes us to balance is the breath, of course. And when you exhale longer than you inhale, you'll just release that. And then gratitude brings your heart and mind into coherent state. So on the spot, if we can just remember to breathe and be thankful for remembering, we've instantly taken back our power.
Thank you. I'm going to do something I don't usually do, but I'm going to devil's advocate here. And so I've got somebody who's really hyped up. They're worried for their parents. They're concerned about the health of a loved one. And they're going, really? Come on. Is it that simple? You want me to just breathe during this time?
Absolutely. But what's going on when you're that way is there is this scared child inside you. And I'm no psychologist, but my guides have told me that's it. I stop when I'm triggered by anything, and I just go, it's okay, Susie. Yes. You're safe. You're safe. And there's this part of me that just calms down, because we go back to this unresolved charge from childhood, and all the news triggers that. There's a part of every one of us, the soul, that knows we're always safe and loved. So if it takes us splitting into two parts, the comforter and the comforted, and just say, you're safe, there's this shift that happens. And in that moment, we find our sanity again.
Who are Boris and Sally?
Well, Boris and Sally were the original guides who made themselves known to me at the beginning of this journey, when I didn't even know we had guides. And the Navy officer in me said, I'm making this up, but they provided so much evidence of things going on in my life and other people's lives that I couldn't deny who they are. But, in truth, the channel Paul Selig said, your guides are who you become when you remember who you are. So that book was written at the beginning of my journey, and I don't hear from Boris and Sally so much anymore because we're just merging in awareness and just tapping into the whole field more and more, which is a beautiful thing.
Very cool. I do a process called automatic writing, which I teach, and I do that each and every morning to the point where I can hear when I'm speaking with you. And that voice used to be very clear, but now it is so clear that it is hard to discern, was that me or was that not me? It all just is. And I believe that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. In fact, I had a conversation this morning with that ultimate source, which says, call me joy. And because that's why we have these experiences, right? Joy loves joy. And it's not all joyous at the human level, but this is a transcendent joy that goes beyond the ups and downs at the human level. So this morning, when we were having one of those conversations, and I was writing as well, Michael, I said, I finally get this, but why are we talking? And Joy said, for the joy of it. So I said, so what happens if we don't talk? And suddenly there are no words. And it was like, well, okay, the talking is fun and it's fascinating. And that's why we do it, but it's not even necessary.
So, and it feeds that intellectual jibber jabber, because to get to the level that you got in the military means you have an incredible, that side of your brain or this mind, and it helps feed it, because we came here. You didn't come here with the mind to let go of the mind. You came here incarnate to use all of it.
Yes, sir. Look, there comes the commander.
Aye, Captain.
Oh, listen to you.
And who is the Council of Poets?
Oh, well, they're the ones that first really let me know I wasn't making up these words I was hearing, because I thought I was hearing beautiful phrases, but that's definitely my imagination, until one morning in meditation, my finger twitched. I knew I had to pick up my pen, and I started writing, and out came a 3-page poem, perfect rhythm, perfect rhyme, answering a question I'd recently asked and telling me about this work that I'm doing today. I was crying. My husband, when he heard it, started crying, because we both knew that wasn't me. So each step of the way, there have been these miraculous moments. And what is a miracle? It's when we realize we are part of something so much greater, when the veil parts and the web reveals itself.
And that miracle, my guess is, well, not even a guess. So I'm looking at little fetishes, Native American fetishes my wife brought back from Sedona. And what they're reminding me is, if we realize that we truly are living in a magical world, we start to see the yellow butterflies, the signs and synchronicities all around us almost at every moment.
All the time. I mean, I just was having a fun healing session with sound and music with a friend of mine 2 days ago, and I heard Spinoza on her table. I said to her, why would I hear that? He's some Dutch philosopher. That was 2 days ago. And last night I picked up this book to start reading randomly, and there's Spinoza. It's just, and I was like, I asked the team, why? And they said, just to show you the web. It's just all around you. All around you. You have to be able to notice, like you said.
Which also means that they're, I like to say, mischievous, but they're playful. It is coming from joy. And when you recognize the humor in all of it, even in this situation today, if you can peel back the layers, and I'm not making life of passing on is grief, but if you can see the humor in everything, you realize that they're playing with us.
Well, they've started with the joke, the meme cartoons now about people buying too much toilet paper. And I mean, the things I'm cracking up. There will always be humor, even in the midst of darkness, because that's the balance in our world. So when we can see that, we won't totally lose our sanity. But, you know, before I forget, this was the first time I noticed that this opportunity that's presenting us is quite aptly named. It's the coronavirus. What is corona? A crown, right? So if we can just open that highest of our energy centers and let the wisdom come in, we will actually grow from this, which is what all opportunities allow us.
You just boogered me. You just totally did, because I was down 2, 3, 4 years ago. I don't even remember. South Carolina, largest lake. I'm on a kayak. My wife is on a kayak. It's raining out. And I'm told her, don't worry. At the last minute, it will come out. And there are birds on the side making noise and stuff. And all of a sudden, they go completely silent. The clouds part. The rain stops. And there's a sliver of the sun. The moon covers it completely, and it's the total eclipse, and we're in the totality, and the corona illuminates everything with this fire white light, and the world goes silent, and you're looking through a portal, and you cannot, every animal, every being, everything stops, and you cannot deny that this is not all there is.
Oh, there's no doubt. And those who deny will ultimately find out anyway. So I don't worry about anybody.
What is the message that you would give, or that your guides would give, about this experience? You already dove into it a little bit, and how this can actually be a tremendously positive experience.
I just interviewed Caroline Chang on my radio show yesterday, and she said how she tries to maintain this positive attitude. She'll talk with people, and they'll just go to talking about their illness or their challenges, and she'd bring it back to positive, and they go back to the illness. That's an addiction. So this is our chance to choose to wear that crown of our divinity, right?
I love it. One of the things, I'm so glad you brought up addiction, because what I've been looking at this situation is like a strobe light. And so I'm seeing this as a huge positive, which is, it is so easy to jump into the negative. I'll put that in quotes, because there is no negative positive on some level, but to jump into that heavier energy. But every time you do, if you tag it, if you catch, negative energy, flip it, send love and light. Tag it, flip it, send love and light. What happens is you start going faster and faster, flickering to the positive, until you're flashing so quickly like a strobe light that if you look at all your light bulbs around you, you realize they have a flicker rate, and you realize they are illuminating the darkness, just as you now are, by being trained from the negative to go to the positive.
I wish we could talk every day, Michael. I've found a kindred spirit here. This is just beautiful.
Yes. Well, I said beforehand, I'm like, I've met you. I don't know where, but I'm like, I've met you. I've seen you.
Right here.
Giant hugs. Before we dive into a meditation, any last words of wisdom you want to share with people, Suzanne?
Well, I would share with you a Rumi verse that I just learned of just yesterday. And it's that our task in light is to remove the barriers to love. The barriers to love. That is what this path is all about. That's like the one instruction for life. That's all we need to know. We're here to remove the barriers to love. And what greater opportunity can we have than this one right here? What does that have to do with a virus? The barrier to love is fear. That's believing in the story. What do I mean by that? You and I are enacting a story here, but beyond that is a story that never ends, that we are the light in expression. But until you come to know that personally, that just sounds like a story too. So the advice is set the intention. I'll guide you through it in a meditation. And make that your task to identify the barriers. Okay? Woo!
Earlier, we were kind of holding our little inner selves or our fear. We were holding that fear. And a big theme of mine right now is love over fear. And I don't mean that it's the choice. I got this in my automatic writing. Love over fear also means love over fear, like a parent holding a wounded child. And if we can coddle our fear, if we can hold our fear, if we can observe our fear, if we can assuage our fear and just totally love ourselves up during this time, which is what you're talking about, it will change everything.
It does. Yeah.
Oh, yay. We're going to have to talk again. Would you mind leading us in a meditation of your calling?
Sure, just a short one, but it's hopefully it'll help us find a place of balance. So I just invite you to close your eyes for a moment. And knowing that we can shut out our focus on the outer world at any time, let's take a nice deep breath. But exhale now longer than you just breathed in and release anything that doesn't serve you. Just do another breath, please, and move your awareness to the heart. And release any stress, any tension by exhaling nice and slowly. And now bring to mind someone or something for which you are very, very grateful, and feel that surge in your heart. Now bring your awareness to the fact that you are far more than a human being, far more than your body. You're a being of light. Picture the boundaries of you as that orb of light, somewhere out beyond the body. But you're even more than that. You are the field itself. So take in a breath and exhale and expand your alleged boundaries outward. In truth, you are limitless. And so in just an instant, with your intention, you can set aside the story. Do so by stating with me, I surrender the story. And now shift the spotlight of your focus to this higher realm, the field of which you are a part. See yourself as a glittering, self-luminous star in an infinite field of light. Become aware of your story as a part of you, but not the entirety of you. And ask any benevolent beings who are hearing you now, in the coming days, will you please make me aware of anything I need to be aware of that is standing in the way of me knowing the fullness of myself as love. As always, may my lessons be as painless as possible. But please bring to my attention that which I can work on and clear out of my field so that I can shine as brightly as possible. And just so that I know that I am not alone and that I am supported by a divine intelligence that goes far beyond any human awareness, I am asking for a very clear sign in the coming days of, and what comes into your mind in this moment right now. That will be your sign in the coming days. And as that sign comes into your awareness, feel again this gratitude that wells up in your heart. And know that this place of peace is always available to you. But for now, just as simply as shifting your awareness back like a spotlight, come back in awareness to this physical body that serves as the vessel for this beautiful story you have chosen to live on this earthly plane. And take a nice breath and open your eyes.
I love it. Woohoo!
Woo!
I feel like there's a teacher angel behind us or outside with a lawnmower or a blower
They
that is helping us
are,
bring
and
it back to center and bring it back to center.
And what I'm saying is, Michael, isn't that interesting?
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's divine timing, isn't it? To give us a chance to laugh and say, that's life.
Is there an exercise, something that we could do on a daily basis to help shift us right now?
I personally use my own meditation called the 10-minute transformation. It's on my website, on my meditations page. It's free, and it's a chakra clearing, energy balancing meditation. I'll say to my husband, you got to excuse me, I have to go clear my chakras. And in just 10 minutes, I'm just calm, I'm re-energized, I have my senses back again. And I tell people, if everybody just learned how to do this, do it once or twice with my method, and you can do it in 2 minutes on your own with no tools whatsoever. It just brings us back to a place of balance, getting centered, and we can get on with life with peace. It is that simple. But Michael, you have to experience it for yourself. So I hope people don't just listen to us talking, but just try it, and they'll say, wow, that really works.
Well, then let's segue right there. Where's a place that people can go to find your beautiful book, to find your meditation, and to find out more?
Well, just like most people these days, it's my name. And so SuzanneGiesemann.com is the website. And down at the bottom of every page is this big footer with all the materials on the page. So meditations is where you would find that 10-minute transformation. Yeah. The whole story we covered today, Michael, was done in a beautiful professional video called Messages of Hope. So that might be a nice place to start on YouTube. But truly, there's so many tools on the website that I hope are helpful to everybody who's listening so that we can all just shine like you do. I'm just so admire your work.
Thank you. Thank you. Woohoo! It goes both ways. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get messages of hope, and begin finding more hope in your life today, and shine bright. Woohoo! We gotta go for the hug. We gotta go for the hug.
Oh, you are awesome. My goodness.
Thank you so much. Thank you
This
so
was great
much.
because we didn't talk about, the standard mediumship questions and talk about your readings and all of that. It was just really a nice chance to talk about what's going on. I was grateful for that.
I just had the most beautiful, hope-filled, heartwarming, amazing, huggable interview with Suzanne Giesemann. To check out more amazing interviews, click here, subscribe below, click on that bell icon to be notified of upcoming shows. Please give us a huge thumbs up if you like it. Leave your comments. We try to answer all of your questions. And join us for our upcoming boot camps of going from fear to love. Love you guys so much. Click here for the boot camp. Shine bright.